One of the aspects that I don't really introduce with my work very often is the historical side of things. But with this being such a well-known bridge and structure, sometimes I'd love to sort of not only test myself, but think of it as a document that can hopefully stand the test of time, even though this view hasn't changed much in many years, except for a few little buildings in the distance on the left, but I was able to leave those out. So let's see how I go. The Sydney Harbour Bridge is world renowned, but it's probably not as well known for a painting subject. And I haven't really painted it in this size, in this format, this scale, as in the bridge so big. It's still only about a 11 by 13 board, so it's a small painting, but this is the perfect size painting to do for a bigger painting, which I think I'll organise to do at some stage. I think it is the more technically difficult subjects to draw, to paint, that normally do make the good bigger paintings. And I hadn't ever painted it with this amount of light on the bridge. Normally I've always painted it as a silhouette, backlit or front lit, more from sort of front on, more from, because the water of the harbour is actually down in the distance there at the base between the two uprights, obviously. So she is a grand subject to paint, and a lot of times you can have a good bridge, building, boat, but if it's not a great setting, that can, as a subject to paint, that can really fall apart on us. But I think Sydney is one of the really spectacular cities of the world. I almost think there's probably a handful of places that as humans would be great all to see, and I've managed to see quite a few now. Just recently seeing the Great Wall of China. I haven't seen the pyramids yet, or Rio de Janeiro, so that's still on the to-do list, both in the slightly more unfortunately dangerous areas of the world as well. So that's something that when you travel, or if you're going to do painting in areas, plein air painting, we have to take that into account, especially if you're traveling by yourself. So now I've got the masses blocked in. As you may notice, it's a lot of blue, purple and greens. So I'm unifying the subject with those colours first, but also creating the depth and distance. You'll notice that the blues in the distance are a little lighter and cooler, and that's just with a little bit of white. And to come forward, a little bit more French ultramarine blue and a little bit of alizarin, because we need to remember that French ultramarine blue does actually have a little bit of red in it, and I think that's the beauty of it. Is the strongest, warmest of all the blues, and I think that's understanding the paint and understanding definitely French ultramarine blue, or understanding our blues, is super helpful, because it's knowing, one, what it can do, but then also its limitations. So that's where we'll need to go, to an alizarin to make it warmer, because the amount of red in it is only small, so we need to be able to push it a little further. So this is where you're looking for design, is those big shapes. How are they interlocking from the left-hand side, where I'm working on now, of the bridge, to the actual bridge, the right-hand side, and then the foreground. And ultimately, I guess, then the sky. So we're looking for interesting shapes, lack of repetition. I think that is my number one when I'm looking at the big shape and then the smaller shapes. Repetition to me is close to boredom. And when you think we've got 4 posts, even though we're only able to see 3, but the front right-hand one's been obscured by the bridge, and the other one is smaller and in the distance. So there's ways to, when we have to face some sort of repetition, there are ways around it. And quite often I don't put the sky in until much, much later, but I felt this was such a difficult one to know what to do with the bridge part, all the girders, and so I needed a little bit more information, but this is super thin at this stage as well. Looks like a little bit of the phthalo blue in this as well, so I'm trying to get it the right overall value up against the darker value of the bridge. And at this stage I was very comfortable, still very happy with how things were going. A little later, that's when I kind of did hit the panic button a little, but thankfully I was able to hold my nerve and push through that difficult part. And actually, now that we've fast forwarded a little bit, it was those shapes, I guess they're the negative shapes of the bridge, the light, the sky coming through. When painting this angle on a bridge, I've done it with the Story Bridge in my home city of Brisbane, a few bridges in Paris, in Rome. This sort of, it's not horizontally on, it's more that diagonal view. It's what to do with those negative shapes. That was the trickiest one. And the little mistake that I did make actually was, you may notice that the arch underneath the bridge on the right hand side doesn't line up with where it comes up through the sky area. Thankfully I picked it up later, much later unfortunately, but yeah, even though I'm going in darkening it, I've actually got to move that little bit further to the right and underneath a little to the left, just so that they line up. I've got it, the top's there and the bottom's here a little bit, so I need to bring them closer to being below each other. I will freely admit that my mind was, even though you have to be like the proverbial swan or duck on a pond of water, all grace and glory above the water, and all frantic paddling and those little feet going 100 miles an hour underneath the water. But that's what painting, I think, really teaches me and teaches us, is how to remain calm under fire when things are getting difficult. And especially when you're teaching or plein air painting and you add plein air painting and teaching at the same time, that's when these sort of days, these moments really do train us, because I think we do need to be part psychologists to extract everything necessary out of ourselves, but also if we're teaching, out of the students as well, or the fellow artists. So we've got some nice light onto those, I guess they're made out of concrete or bricks, the piers that are holding up either ends. There are some fantastic photos and paintings of the bridge before it was joined together, and that is a feat of engineering in itself, I believe. How the blazes can they cantilever that mass before they finish them off, and then the bridge actually takes its own weight. So just putting in some of these chimneys, do need to get the foliage in. That's why you can see that there was quite a bit of underpainting there, quite green, a little bit warmer and darker than the distance. But I do love to do paintings in passages as well. That's the beauty of oil paint, is that we don't have to do everything at once. I can go back in, not that I like touching the sky, but if need be, or the fact that I do need to go and fix that arched pylon or upright, and that's not really an upright. The beauty is that I can go back in and fix and enhance or correct that sort of aspect. Okay, normally when you see a small brush, that normally means that I'm getting close to the end. And thankfully, I managed to hold my nerve, and I think this painting really did propel me on to a group of bigger and better paintings. I was really pleased with how this one came out, even though it did push me right to the end. But it's always so much more gratifying and enjoyable when we know we overcome those obstacles. But as for longevity, how a painting will last, I think time is the great leveler. That's the one that sometimes I look at them in 6 months, maybe even a year's time, and then be able to sort of reassess things at that distance. But overall, it was a great day. I hope you enjoyed it. All the best. Bye for now.